Steve and Jill here.
Hello.
Welcome to the Land Academy Show, entertaining land investment talk. I'm Stephen Jack Butella.
And I'm Jill DeWitt, broadcasting from sunny Southern California.
Today, Jill and I talk with member Mike Marshall, who shares his professional experience with us here at Land Academy.
He's also in sunny Southern California.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This signal's going through satellites and stuff, but I really think it's like we're like 3 miles from each other.
I know. Yeah, exactly. No, it's great. Lucky to be here right now. The weather's beautiful, so I'm grateful.
It is.
So before we get into it, let's talk about your position at Los Angeles County and what that's all about. And man, I got to tell you before you even start how beneficial it is to have you in our Land Academy group.
Oh, great. Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, it's been a pleasure helping people out and being a part of the group. Absolutely. You know, my experience over the last 15 years has been working in different jurisdictions in Texas and here in California, basically with the planning departments. And so heavily involved in land development, land use, and that kind of thing. So I come from more of like the land development side of the equation. And so a lot of my experience and a lot of my contacts are in that world, specifically here in Southern California and Los Angeles. So, you know, I deal with anything from, you know, beginning of my career, it was anything from, you know, small residential additions and everything. But where I'm at now, you know, I'm working on large residential subdivisions for large home builders, you know, maybe 1,200 residential units for KB or for party homes, working on 100,000 square foot large, you know, commercial developments as well. So right now where I'm at is kind of like these larger projects, larger subdivisions, maybe annexation projects for different jurisdictions. But a lot of what I'm doing, like I said, is really more working with developers one-on-one, bringing their projects through the entitlement process. And so, you know, when you look at a development project, you'll have the beginning part of it, whereas the entitlement process basically giving you the approval to do the project. And then you have maybe going through your building permit process, getting your building permits issued, and then going through construction. So I'm really more on the front end from the conceptual part of the project all the way through the actual granting of those entitlements. And that's really where my career is focused on in the last 15 years.
So I'm going to ask the question that every single person who's listening to this really wants to ask, and they're thinking, why is it such a pain in the ass to get anything built?
Especially in California.
I was going to say, totally.
You know, and that's the thing. My career is like the total polar opposites. Texas is so different. Texas is a lot easier comparatively than California. California is a lot about like you just have environmental regulations. Just that alone and how steep those are in California slows the process down, and that means that it's more money and there's less certainty from the developer's side of the equation. You know, what they want is they want certainty more than anything else, and the process doesn't allow for them to have that certainty. And so the development process, again, especially in California, is just looked at as you know, it's just more risky. And so, you know, it just takes a long time to get through the process. It's not uncommon to see, you know, like that project I mentioned, those 1,200 units, you know, that project was in probably about 10, 15 years ago when it originally was submitted. And now it's just getting on the ground today. And so that's how kind of cumbersome and ridiculous in some cases it is to develop, you know, in California specifically, with the exception of infill lots. Infill lots is a lot better.
I'd love to hear about that. So how does that go?
Yeah.
So what you have in that situation is, again, you know, how we've been talking about it in Land Academy is just a vacant lot between two houses, but it can also apply to commercial infill as well. And so in that situation, the environmental regulations, there's exemptions in the law that say, hey, if you're like on a 10,000 square foot lot and there's no possibility for environmental impacts, you can get through that process a lot quicker. So just infill in of itself right there, you've cut maybe, you know, 8 to 12 months out of the process just in something like that. So again, infill is much better. In the way that regulations are going in California right now at the state level, they're really obviously concerned about affordable housing. You keep hearing that over and over and over. So the state is creating regulations and legislation to basically streamline the development process and make it easier for developers to actually add more density and add more housing on projects. And that's really where the push is right now.
Okay.
It's a little push and pull between the state and local jurisdictions. Local jurisdictions want to have control. They want to be able to say, we want to control what it looks like and what it feels like and everything else. And the state is more concerned about providing the housing. So that's a lot of what's going on in California, at least right now.
All the more reason to do what we're doing and not do it ourselves and flip it to somebody else.
Well, absolutely. And even though I have that experience, I don't know that I want to go through it myself, truthfully. I mean, yeah.
No one's more qualified than you to make that decision.
Hang with me, baby. In 15 years, we're gonna be rolling in it.
Exactly, and I think it's different people have a different stomach for it, and if you've been doing it for a while, then more power to you, and I'm much more along the line of, hey, I'll find the opportunities, I'll help you through the acquisition process, and I'll pass it on, and I'll move on to the next one.
That's our whole business model, obviously.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So so it's really interesting in California right now, but that's really where my focus is at, and a lot of that is just because of the relationships that I've built, more than anything else, and trying to take advantage of those things that you have. I remember yesterday, I think it was Matt was talking about on one of the calls about, the relationships, how he's really great at building relationships. I think it's a huge key is to use those assets and the things that you have to your advantage. And that's what I've been trying to do.
I 100% agree.
Yeah,
we tell our kids that all the time. If you don't use every resource you have, like us, and something like that, you're not doing it wrong. You need to use your contacts and who you know, and that's okay. There's
absolutely that. So. You have to. I mean, that's just the way that the world works, and there's no shame in it at all, and it's an absolute skill, and that's again what I've been trying to leverage that as much as possible.
It took me a long time. It took me till recently to really realize that when you talk about these contacts and these relationships, they need you, whatever you're offering, as much as you need them.
Totally.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're coming to somebody saying, hey, give me a break.
Right.
Or do me a favor. It's like, hey,
how can we make this work together?
The people that we sell this property to are dying for good transaction deal flow from rational people like us.
I got to tell you, I've been meeting with a lot of these buyers and developers, and even with some of these, smaller regional home builders. And I tell them about what we're doing and what the approach is and how it's, heavily data centric, and that's where the focus is. And they just get excited. Their eyes light up because their in-house teams don't really have either the knowledge, skill, or ability or willingness to go out and do it. They're kind of stuck doing it, through either maybe their contacts, driving around, whatever they're going to do. But, the notion of using data is not something that they're really used to. So when they hear that, they really perk up and they're really interested. So it's an advantage.
Why is that? It's amazing, because I come from a commercial real estate / Wall Street driven acquisition background, and, with a dash of accounting. And we did stuff really intelligently. And here we are. So I don't know why the acquisition staff on a large home builder like Toll Brothers or something, they haven't caught on to this.
I know.
It's amazing. And I don't really know either. I don't know where it's at. And I think, at least my experience recently has been that because of the market in Southern California, you have larger builders like the Parties and the Toll Brothers. Then you have these smaller regional ones. They're trying to find their place in the market, and so they can't really compete on these large acreage, big, huge properties. So they're looking at one more infill stuff. And I think that's a little bit outside their experience. And so they're looking for people like us that can actually go out and source these deals for them.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. I'm just thinking about what a difference it was coming from Texas. Was probably just good old boys, I'm not, go ahead, getting what you're to probably the most difficult. I can't think of a more difficult state or environment to get something done.
Yeah.
We all know, we all drive around, looking at things being built in our neighborhood, and we all see, Steve and I in particular, we watch the work stop. And we all know that there's some holdup, and it's probably not money. There's some other legal holdup as why this construction is on pause for 4 weeks or something ridiculous.
Or 4 months.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. You'll see them. They'll pull, their crews on and off to meet demand is one thing, or there's some other circumstance that's come up, like you said. It's going to be interesting to see out here in terms of how many units are coming on the ground, even though they need housing. You're still seeing a large supply of houses getting built, at least in North LA County. So it's a really interesting market to see and see if it's going to get overran. So it'll be interesting.
Is Santa Clarita in LA County?
Yeah, just the northern portion. So I know you guys are familiar with like Palmdale, Lancaster, that area. So we're just we're at the junction of the 5 and the 14, right where Magic Mountain is, the theme park. So we're right there, and so we're at the northern parts of LA County. Just north of us would be portions of Los Padres National Forest, and you're getting into Kern County.
Okay.
So let's say I buy. This is all theoretical.
Okay.
10 acres in Santa Clarita that's got county access and all the utilities are at the road and it's flat.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to go through the entitlement process and develop a bunch of lots, do the infrastructure in the lots, and then sell all the lots with the infrastructure in place to Toll Brothers to finish them and sell them. How long would that process take from a landowner perspective?
Right. So from the day that you kind of start consulting with a civil engineer to the day that you can start selling those lots, I think you're easily 18 to 24 months. And that's having really professional people. If somebody ever wants to get into this game, the biggest advice I could ever give anybody is find professional people that are in that area, that have done projects in your area. Don't go cheap. Cheap is always going to cost you more in the end because they're going to drag it out. They're going to make the process work worse for you. So pay for the qualified people and get it done right the first time.
I love that.
Yeah.
I believe you get what you pay for with everything.
I agree. Jewelry as well.
Exactly.
I think
yes.
I thought you were going to say 2 or 3 years. I mean, I thought you were going to say longer than that.
That was
24
best
months
case scenario with pros. So 18 to 24 months, which for probably somebody, really trying this is probably 3 years, really.
Yeah. Right. Go ahead.
That was the perfect scenario.
It is. That is a perfect scenario. And you never know. I mean, and that's like a flat piece of land that doesn't have a lot of environmental, issues that you have to deal with. And the truth of the matter is that property you described, it really doesn't even exist. I mean, especially up here, and so up here, everything has some sort of hang up with it, and that's why I can't even say a lot of times, there's always a reason why it hasn't been developed yet. The easy low hanging fruit has already been grabbed and done, especially in LA County.
You know what I was going to say? I love when you came to our live event last fall and what you brought to the table, we were both totally blown away.
Yeah.
And there were so many things that I never would have thought of.
Me too.
And it was so awesome for us all to hear and learn from you. And the beauty of it is now knowing what I know, and I'm in the most complicated areas that probably anywhere else I try this, it's going to be easier. I know, so many things like you even brought up yesterday on the call about these trees. I mean, this tree thing
Oak
is
trees.
totally foreign to me. Like, the cost involved of moving it, you think you just, rip up this tree, guess
Right.
you can't just do that. And by the way, now the removal of the tree might cost more than what you paid for the property.
Absolutely. In many cases, it very well could. And just in one oak tree sitting in the middle of a parcel, that could actually just be the one thing that's prohibited development up until now.
Exactly.
We've seen it happen.
It's like we tell the kids, the kids like, oh, but, when they're little, but mommy, it's free. Oh, hold on a moment. You know what I mean? There's a reason why. This is why the whole driving for dollars thing, drives me batty. Do you think you're the first person that came across this gorgeous parcel in the middle of this awesome area and it's just sitting there available? There's something going on. That's
my call. Every day I talk to somebody about that same exact thing. Everybody thinks they're the one that found that jewel, and it's weird, it's kind of leading even into the infill reports is that I know that we try to say that there's no such thing as junk property. And I believe that there really is no such thing as junk property, but there is property that doesn't work for people given what their intent actually is. And so if your intent is to build on a lot, there's a lot out there that you theoretically could, but the cost and the time to do it is just going to kill you. And do you really want to do it? Do you really want to engage in it? There's examples up here where there's lots that are maybe 50 to 60 lots that are landlocked on the top of a hillside that were originally deeded as part of subscriptions that the LA Times sold back in the early 1900s. And so they give away these parcels of land, and they're all landlocked, and nobody could ever access them. You have 40 people you have to get easements from. It's the only way it's ever going to work is if one developer goes in and buys all of them. But good luck finding everybody. And so these things keep showing up, and they show up on the tax sale list, and people will pick them up, and then they call and say, "What can I do with it?" And I'm like, well, not a lot, honestly. You can't even
enjoy your paper,
right? And that does happen.
That came with
right.
Get a survey, frame it put it in a picture frame, and hang it above the fireplace, because that's really all it's good for.
Right, exactly. Unless you're somebody that's from, out of state or out of the country, and you're like, I just want to feel good about owning a piece of California property. And that happens too.
Okay.
It happens too.
Yeah.
So.
People buy shares of stock that they have no interest in doing anything with, or that's just saying, hey, I own a piece of Apple or something like that. That's all I want in the frame, on the wall. I'm a shareholder.
Right. Yeah. The value is with the person that bought it. So if they value it, hey, by all means. So
that's so great. So you started to talk about info reports. So do you want to talk about that too, Stephen?
Well, yeah. Mike is the brainchild of, and the founding partner in a company that we have called Info Reports, inforeports.com or report.com. And essentially, if you're a member or if you're anybody who owns a piece of property or wants to buy a piece of property and you're wondering how it can get used, or can you build a house on it, where are the utilities, and all different other types of facts, you order an info report, and it comes out on the other side, and it tells you within reason if these things are possible and what's possible. So we've had a great response so far. We quite honestly haven't marketed it at all, or the way we should. It's slated to be marketed later this year, but I have not. A lot of people in our group have purchased info reports, and I have not had one person come back and say, this information is just not what I thought. It's not helpful.
It's fantastic, and I hear everything from yay, I knew I was on the right path, and the other flip side is, oh my gosh, that was money well spent. I didn't buy that property because of the way the report went back. Thank goodness.
It's nationwide too. It's not just California.
Absolutely. That idea was just born out of my experiences working in these jurisdictions and talking with people that would be like, hey, I bought this property. Now what can I do with it? And then I have to be the one to break the bad news to them, And it was like, and so that happened all the time, and I'm like, geez, it'd be great to do something that to at least help people be more informed, and not give them advice as far as to buy or not buy. They can make that choice, but as long as you have the information and can make the decision for yourself, that's what it was all about, And it was trying to at least provide people with that opportunity, and you have to have the information to do it. So that's really what that was born out of.
And I love the way that you have the numbers set up that tells you the level of ready to go. It needs something, not going to happen, run.
Not going to happen. Jill nailed it. Jill nailed it. The real value is getting an info report during the acquisition stage, not after you purchase the property.
Exactly. Right. Do it ahead of time.
Absolutely. Agreed.
There's some when we sat down I remember that. I'll remember it forever. We sat down and originally talked about this.
Yeah.
My first thought was, where the hell have you been all my life? Because back in the day, Jill and I were buying properties in Riverside, San Bernardino, and counties in the southeastern part, even San Diego County.
Yeah.
And big properties, like 120 acres for very little. And over the years, we get these calls 2 years later after we sell it. And the people are said, hey, thanks. Do you have any more property like that? Because we just sold this property for $2 million that we bought from you 3 years ago for $80,000.
Yeah.
So I could have ordered an info report and figured out, there's all these utilities that are set up for this, this, and this.
The true value.
I would have done something else.
Right. That's a great point, because it's not only just highlighting the things that might be wrong, but you may uncover things that you can do with the property that you didn't know before. And then all of a sudden there's that value that you can unlock. So that's.
And I look at it like giving it forward. When you pull an info report and you have this great property that we're talking about, and you buy it, and you can go to a builder or somebody else and hand it to them and go, look how valuable this is. I've already got all these questions answered for you. That is so valuable. I love it.
Absolutely. I think that is the key part of the value. Absolutely.
So what do you know, speaking of San Bernardino County and Riverside and some of the adjacent counties to Los Angeles, is it easier to get stuff done? I don't want to get you in trouble here. Maybe you don't even know.
Sure.
I'm wondering.
I have like contacts, professional contacts in those jurisdictions, and yes, it will be easier, in those more rural counties to get some stuff done. And historically in a lot of those cities, where they're really kind of hurting for economic development, they're going to be more apt to be flexible in getting things done, where they're streamlining the process or what have you. Large employers, is always a big thing. So they'll tend to get things done a lot easier. Some of those more outlying counties will be a little bit more simple. There are some things that are, state legislation regarding maybe like subdivisions and things like that you can't get through. And again, that's why I love Texas. I mean, it's the best situation, and how you can do subdivisions specifically in Texas is amazing. It will be a little bit easier in Riverside, San Bernardino, Imperial, those areas. If you want to go.
The Santa Clarita question about that flat 10 acres.
Mm-hmm.
What's the time frame in Texas where you were?
Oh, I have to really think back. I think time frame in Texas would be easily in half. I mean, the cool part is depending on where you're at, the subdivision itself can be done.
Let's see, what time is it?
So,
11:30. I make 2 calls. We have it done at noon.
Yeah.
That's how Jill does everything, by the way.
Yeah.
It is.
I do. Watch me go.
Right.
So what's for you next? Are you buying property? I know you've got some pretty heavy hitters, asking you to find them properties. So what's next for you? Or what are you working on?
Yeah. The way that I kind of came and started searching for Land Academy ultimately was that, I had a team of people, developers that were looking for projects. I was working with them and bringing them through the process. So this is outside my job, so I'd be somewhere else, some other jurisdiction. I'd be helping them through the process and getting those projects done. But the thing that they're always complaining about, again, is that they just couldn't find the properties. They couldn't find stuff, in terms of acquisitions. And at that time, I didn't really have much of an answer for them, And so me and another coworker, we were kind of business partners on the side. We said, well, let's try to figure this out. And so I was kind of tasked as the one to kind of go and start looking at different ways to do that. And so that's when I started looking. I came across somebody else in the space, didn't really like that approach, found you guys, loved it. And so then I really started to go and really started buying, rural vacant land for myself, really more, if nothing else, just to really try to perfect the mailing and pricing process and just that methodology and try to get that sunken into my head. The whole thing all along was I always knew that I was going to bring it back and apply it to these buyers that I had, And so, kind of like reversing the wholesale model and doing more of like a reverse wholesale thing where I have these buyers and they're placing orders and I'll take those and I'll go and I'll assign them or whatever we work out. But so I'm not really holding stuff in inventory, so I'm really going out and fulfilling orders and doing it that way. I've been able to work situations out where, I'll get an assignment fee and then I'll maybe negotiate that down for a little bit of the equity on the back end as well on the project. So I kind of have those opportunities that I work out as well. So that's where I'm headed is doing that. Right now I'm working on a pretty big mailer for the city of LA. And our real strategy is that we're looking at underutilized parcels. We're looking at, things, for example, you might have a single family house that's on an 8,000 square foot lot, but the zoning allows for much higher density. And so these tends to be like older homes, maybe built in the 40s and 50s. And so we'll go out, we'll acquire those with the intention of ultimately, taking those down and building an actual higher density multifamily building. That's what my buyers are looking at doing all throughout the city. And so, again, it's a niche thing. You have to kind of really understand zoning, understand what you can get on the properties. But RealQuest Pro is awesome because it really allows you to sift by zoning and all these other things. So I can really narrow down exactly what I'm looking for.
So in that scenario, you've got an old house built in the 20s or something like that on an 8,000 square foot lot on a thoroughfare way, large street, and it's zoned, it's zoned up already for you.
Right.
What would you do there? Walk us through that process, how long it might take with the city of LA.
Sure.
Just generally, what if it all went really well for these guys, what would they do?
Right. So I'll kind of start with the end answer is that you could probably get through that process in terms of planning approval, building permit issuance, and you're kind of breaking ground. You can get through that process probably within a year. Once you know the people that to how to process it in LA City, how to get it through, kind of have your contacts in there, you can get it done and start moving within a year. You may get lucky and get it done a little bit quicker, but especially on an infill lot, something like that, where it's not really raising a lot of attention of council members or any of the elected, it's really flying under the radar. Something like that you can get done within a year. And that's the goal. I mean, I don't want to be on anybody's radar. I want to fly right underneath it.
Me too.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want anybody looking at what I'm doing. I don't want any of that. So I just want to kind of
exactly. I'm not here to brag about it or anything like that. No, just quietly get it done.
Exactly. And I'll do it in volume. I don't need prestige. I don't need ego. I don't need somebody to go and look at this building that I did. I don't need any of that.
Nope.
Says 3 people in front of a camera with microphones.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
This is not going to air.
All right. So the approval process is done in a year, and then you go vertical, and then it takes how long it takes.
Yeah. And depending on what you run into, but I mean, you'll probably, on a situation like I said, maybe you have an 8 or 10 unit building, you'll probably get up and done in, probably another year. Probably even less than that, honestly. Yeah. And in this scenario, a lot of the people that I sell to, what they'll do is they'll actually go and entitle it and bring it through that part of the process and all the way to the point where it's actually ready to have building permits issued, and then they'll sell to the builder.
That's what I would
do. You have a step in the middle.
There's 3 talents here, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. There's sourcing the land, which is what we do.
Right.
There's the entitlement process and what I would call, it's not really technically soft costs, but it's part of the soft costs, which is kind of what you do or you're aware of more than most people. And then there's construction, which that's a whole different thing.
Exactly. So I don't really ever get into that side of it. I have people that I work with and partners that do all of that, and they price all of that out. But yeah, I really just bring it up to that. If I do work on that side of it, it'll bring it from submittal all the way through building permit issuance, and then I walk out at that point. But where I'm at really at this point, I don't even really all that often want to get involved in that part of it. I just really want to more do the acquisitions and sell to the entitlement guys, But the knowledge and the experience is really useful because I can understand what they're looking for and what they need. And then if I do want to get involved, it just becomes another revenue stream.
What I could never have gotten over or past in my professional real estate career, and I never will at this point, is the risk between there's always a moment. We were talking about this on a show. There's always a moment of confidence where, you know what? I'm going to buy this piece of property. I know exactly what I'm going to do with it and how long it's going to take. And plus or minus 10%, I know how much money I'm going to make on it. When it comes with entitlements and either zoning changes or whatever's involved, it's been very difficult for me historically to say, hey, I wonder if this stuff's really going to actually happen at the city level. I'm not going to buy the property. I don't want to take the chance.
Right. I agree. I talking with some of these larger builders, the issue is that you can really do anything to get it entitled. You can go and do whatever the city or the county is asking you for. But at the end of it all, can you actually build it? Can you actually build what you've gotten approved? And if you don't have the mind for the construction side of it as you're going through the entitlement process, you don't know where to pick your fights and everything. Otherwise, you're going to end up with this project that's great, it looks beautiful, it's approved, but it doesn't pencil. And so the builders get really kind of frustrated with that, with the guys that are the entitlement focused side of it. So you have to work in conjunction with it and know what you're doing. It's tough.
I mean, the underlying job of every architect is to make a non-feasible project.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's like they treat it like an art project, and it's not what it is. Not what it is. Yeah.
It's only going to cost $42 million in it, but I'm going to win an award.
Exactly. I have that nice little trophy on my desk and everything will be wonderful. Yeah. No, it's so true.
The plaque of the LA County roof, property that you own.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's funny.
There's a documentary on Netflix right now about, Lego Corporation, Legos.
Yeah.
they took their Scandinavian world headquarters and rebuilt it and got architects involved and made it a museum.
Oh wow!
Kids can play it and walk through in it. And the whole time I'm watching it, going, how much did that cost?
Yeah.
And it was cool. Like, it won awards, but I'm like, there's no way it stands on its own feet financially at all.
Right. It's like, how do you justify that? I don't know. I guess, I don't know how you do that either. It bothers me every night.
You're either going to run emotionally or financially. You rarely get both.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We choose to win financially.
Yeah.
Over emotionally.
I leave the emotional stuff for fishing and all that.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, that makes sense.
So have you done a deal recently that you're super proud of or one that blew up or anything like that? Or do you have any good deal stories? Even if they're not your own, like people's like, everybody loves to hear stories about a bunch of people that submitted some stuff to the city of Los Angeles and it just blew up in their face because it's not us,
Yeah, there's two. Like we've had two that I've worked on, and they've gone exact polar opposites. One was a 10 unit multifamily building on a major highway or major roadway. And we thought that one was going to go through really, really well. And then the other one was a 12-lot subdivision that is for 12 residential houses that we thought was going to kind of cause some issues. And that one went through really, really easily. So you never kind of know what you're going to get, sometimes. And so in that particular part of LA, they have like these community plans. And one of them was like, there's like this big equestrian focus, which is really funny because the community wants this historical equestrian focus, and yet it's a very highly urbanized area and it just doesn't really meet. And so these, you go to these community meetings and you're like, well, here's this multifamily building, we're providing houses, and they want horse hitches out front, so it's like you're like, oh my goodness. So you're at these community meetings and like one person takes control of the whole thing. And, and I'm at this community meeting making this presentation, and I happen to be sick with a cold, and I'm like coughing. And this lady is like talking about horses and horse hitches. And I'm like, my goodness. Yeah, it was just crazy. And so she kind of hijacked like that process to a degree, because you really had to get support from the local council district and everything like that. Then on top of it, we had a civil engineer that didn't know what they were doing. And so that delayed the process at the city. And then the flip side is, just like 2 blocks away, we had that 12-lot subdivision, and it was the same community group, but that one lady was gone from the group. And then all of a sudden, that whole group loved our project. Oh, we love it. This is great. Architecture is wonderful. Go through. Yep. So, sometimes it's two things. It's the city process, and sometimes it's the community too. And so when I talk about flying under the radar, I want to try to do projects that don't require community involvement, that don't require public noticing. I don't want to involve the other people if I don't have to. Right.
This is unfortunately further perpetuating our crazy Southern California viewpoint people have about us. So now I think what everybody hears is, I have to have a horse hitch next to my electric car plug-in. They got to be right next to
Exactly. Why not?
Call everybody. Yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's actually not too far off.
Welcome to Southern California.
Right. Wow. Yeah, that's funny.
Yep.
So it does get interesting. It can get really sideways really quick.
Yep.
I love the weather here. I really do. But Jill grew up here in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
And statistically, I read recently that there are 5 times more people here than back then.
Right.
With we all know the infrastructure has not kept up with that, in any way.
Right. I have a similar rants that you do, I think, Stephen, about California. I was born and raised, I left for a while to Texas. I almost left and went to Idaho, actually. It's hard. It's a lot of reasons that frustrate me and make me want to move. And then I look outside at the weather, and I know that I can go to the beach, the desert, and the snow all in the matter of a day. And there's nowhere else you can do that. And it's expensive as anything else, man. I can't stand that too, but at the end of it all, it's like, sometimes it's like in your blood too. And it's just like hard to leave.
I'm less than 10 minutes away from fishing on the Pacific Ocean from where I'm sitting right now.
That's just got to be the saving grace. You always know you can go.
That includes getting in the boat.
All of that. includes everything.
It includes walking on the marina and getting in the boat.
Yeah. The other thing that keeps me in LA, at least, or Southern California, is the Mexican food. You know, I've learned that like I go to like Texas, and the Tex-Mex is something completely different. And
Totally.
I missed it. I missed it so much. Like just not being able to get like street tacos and stuff like that. Oh man. So the food keeps me too.
Yep. You are right.
Los Angeles is awesome if you just don't have to travel that far every day.
That's
right.
That's really, when people say they hate LA, I don't think they hate LA. I think they hate traveling around in LA.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, if I could just, work from home, I'm lucky. I mean, I only travel a few minutes to work, in the day, so I can't complain too much. But yeah, that's my ultimate goal though too, is just work remote from home, and then I don't know, probably move to the beach somewhere. Targeting San Luis Obispo area, I think that's kind of where.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me that the smaller communities all over California, the small towns, are truly amazing, and I'm waiting. I keep wondering why it's taking so long, because everybody's on a computer now, and we're so connected, and I wonder why these smaller communities haven't developed more, or why I guess there hasn't been more younger people like us that have just, because we don't need, I think maybe you might have construction or municipal stuff is different, but
yeah,
so many people are just on a computer. I don't know why you move to a small town where it's cheap and all of that.
I don't know either. I hear all these reports about like the preferences of millennials and what they want, and like the talking about how they don't necessarily care about having cars anymore. And, in my world in planning, they're always trying to look forward, and see what's going on. So they're looking at trends in that sense, and it's hard for me to swallow, I mean, growing up in California, heavy car culture, it's hard for me to believe that. It's hard for me to believe that anybody would want to live in a building that has no parking for you, but they're building those buildings in downtown LA right now, multifamily buildings that have no parking at all provided. Yeah, just street parking, and that's it, And so what they're trying to do is they're just trying to force you to walk. They're trying to force you to use public transit. They're trying to force it as much as you can, and it's getting built. So I don't know.
The history of humanity, forcing people to do stuff they don't want to do doesn't work.
Right. Yeah. So I don't get it. I don't see what the demand is in it, but who knows? And then I just kind of go to a place where I'm just not the target market. Then I'm just not what they're looking for.
Yeah, we say that all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Joe.
Cool. Well, this has been awesome.
Yeah, truly.
So thank you so much. I'm really glad you're here.
Thank you for being part of the community, man. I mean, you're truly adding a tremendous, as a member.
Yep.
Truly amazing.
We appreciate you show up on the calls, and you're there, and you're able to quickly give some, free insight to all of our members. Like, look for this, just to give you a heads up. I see this slope might mean this, and I know that is so valuable for everyone. So
just hoping to help out, provide information, and hopefully that helps people out. Like I said, it's just information, and they can decide which way they want to go. So I'm enjoying it. I really am.
Good.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Join us next time for another interesting episode. And we answer your questions posted on our online community.
Landinvestors.com. It's free. Is that my part? I already forgot.
Because we're so interested in what we're talking about.
So good. You are not alone in your real estate ambition.
Thanks again, Mike. It's really great to talk to you as always.
Absolutely. Good talking to you as well. Good seeing you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Take care.